Hi everybody, I'm Dawn. This is Eric with me today. Excuse me. So as far as I'm concerned, spooky season has begun. So that means it's time to do some Halloween videos, some spooky videos, if you will. And so
Did you see the spooky ghost?
And so we're going to start with our top 10 favorite horror movies. Now, I am an enormous horror fan. I love horror. But Eric doesn't care. Most of it he thinks is just stupid. But we were able to come up with a list for him. And mine was like, was able to write mine down really fast. But we're going to go through our list. First, we'll start with 10. I'll do mine, then he'll do his, and then we'll go down the list. And we'll probably chat about each movie as we go. Okay, should I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, so my number 10 favorite movie is Carrie, the one with Sissy Spacek. Although I do like the Carrie with Chloe Grace Moretz. I do like it a lot, but I like the one with Carrie because the cinematography is just so creepy and eerie in it. And that's why I like that. Incidentally, I don't know if I'm using that word right. I was going to say...
It depends on what you say next.
Carrie is the first novel I ever read from start to finish.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. You said incident.
Okay. And I was 11 years old when I read it. Just so you know.
Plus, it's got the greatest American hero in it.
Yeah, the greatest
William
American
Cat.
hero. And John Travolta.
Yeah, that guy too.
And Nancy Allen, who I just watched her episode of SVU the other night. Okay, it's your turn.
Okay, my number 10 is Friday the 13th. The original one from whatever year that was.
1980.
They have made other ones, haven't they? Didn't they?
Yeah.
That was the one that you forgot existed,
Yeah.
right?
Remember when you said something about, we were talking about remakes and you said they made a remake of Friday the 13th? And I was like, no, they didn't. And
I saw it.
I didn't like that movie at all, that I just completely glossed over the fact that it even existed. And Jared Padalecki is in it, and I still forgot
It
about
almost
it.
seems like we went to the theater to see that.
I believe we did. I believe we did go to the theater. After I started remembering
Which doesn't
it.
happen very often.
Yeah. I think the last movie I've seen in the theater was that Star Wars movie on Christmas.
It might have been. I think it was
Force Awakens.
One of those It movies.
Did we go to the theater to see it?
I saw one in the theater.
We must have then, if you remember going to the theater. Okay.
But
So
yeah, I like the end of the Friday the 13th in the canoe. That's a classic scene.
It's a
Scared
classic.
the crap out of me when I was a little kid.
Spoiler alert. You should have already seen it. It's from 1980. So
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
I mean, it's not like you're really
Okay.
going to ruin the movie.
So this isn't going to be real exciting. We're not going to have much to say for my number 9, but my number 9 is Friday the 13th, the original.
We just talked about that.
Yeah. I saw Friday the 13th the same night I saw Halloween. Double feature. Okay.
Okay. And he's got the burlap. Wait, no.
No,
that
that's-
doesn't even appear till
he's
part
not
2,
even-
does it?
Yeah, that doesn't appear till part 2.
Okay. My number 9 is Pet Sematary from 2019, the new one. That's probably going to be an unpopular choice. But I like it quite. I like John Lithgow in that movie. Judd.
I do like.
Well, he plays
Jed.
Judd.
Is it Judd or Jed?
Judd. I think it's Judd Crandall.
I thought it was Jed Crandall.
I don't think so. Now you have me second guessing myself.
We'll have to look it up. It's probably Judd. You're probably right.
Don't put him up there. He didn't talk like that.
He was really good in that, but I did
That
like.
was Fred Gwynn.
I did like Fred Gwynn though. I did like him in the original Pet Sematary.
I like when he's laying there with his daughter and his daughter's dead and her face is like starting to rot away and she's like, "There's something wrong with me, isn't there? I'm not alive anymore."
I
It
honestly
was really sad, actually.
Yeah. I honestly didn't see that whole movie. I fell asleep
Yeah.
during it. But that guy that played the dad, he was in this movie. I can't remember the name of it. Something about the devil. It's not a scary movie, but it's a really good movie. Spider-Man is in it. It's in part
Spider-Man No Way Home.
Spider-Man and Edward Cullen are in it.
Oh.
And he's that guy that plays the dad in the newer Pet Cemetery. In part of the movie, he's like, I'm going to take pictures of you having sex with my wife. What's so weird about that? Something along those lines. And he didn't.
I sort of remember that movie.
He didn't say sex. He said he said the vulgar word for that act. But yeah. But that was a good movie though. I just can't remember what it was called. It was so good I forgot the name of it. Okay, so number 8 for me is oh boy. Is It Chapter 1 and 2, the 2017 version. I think
that's not fair. You can't have both of them.
yes, it's because it's all
I'll
one.
accept that.
How am I going to say this without making everybody hate me? I think that Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise is better than Tim Curry's. Because Tim Curry was restricted by television. And he was also restricted by it being 1989. And I'm not saying Tim Curry was a bad Pennywise at all. Tim Curry is brilliant, and I love him in everything he's in, except for that movie with Sylvester Stallone where I hated everybody in it. What was that movie called? Oscar?
Face Off?
No.
I don't know.
Face Off is one of my guilty pleasure movies, so I don't like it, but if it's on, I'll watch it. But I think it was called Oscar. Marissa Tomei is in it also.
I think you would notice if somebody cut my face off and cut a face off another guy and switched them out.
I would
Somehow
notice.
I think that would be obvious to you.
I would notice. I feel, because it's not just about the face. It's
well,
about
the other guy would be here with you because he would have my face, and I would be over there with someone else. Wherever.
But see, the thing about one of my problems with that movie is it's not about just the face. It's about the bone structure underneath.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's all bone structure and everything.
Yeah, the face is just a lump of skin.
Yeah. So
it's a stupid movie. Yeah. Makes no sense.
Another guilty pleasure movie of mine, and we'll do guilty pleasure movies. I may have to do that alone. I don't know. Eric doesn't really waste his time on guilty pleasures. But another guilty pleasure movie of mine is Con Air. I love that movie. I love it. John Malkovich.
To say that, but...
John Malkovich, Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, Cole Meany.
A lot of good actors in that movie for some reason.
For some reason. Steve
Don't know
Buscemi.
how they got him to do that.
It's a great movie. It's a great bad movie. I love Con Air. Okay, Eric, what's your number 8?
The Evil Dead from 1981 with Bruce Campbell. It's a classic.
That's a good one.
It really scared me when I was like 13 or 14 when I first saw it. I watch it now and it's just kind of like horror comedy.
It still, even though it's ridiculous, it still scares me. It does. And do you know, in A Nightmare on Elm Street, when Nancy is in her room watching TV, that movie is on the TV. And the first time I saw A Nightmare on Elm Street, it was a double feature at the drive-in, and Evil Dead was before A Nightmare on Elm Street. And also, that same night, my parents were divorced, and my dad took me home to my mom's house. And we lived on the 3rd floor of this apartment complex. And after he dropped me off, I didn't want him to climb up the stairs because of his heart. So I went up the stairs, and he saw me fly up the stairs. He said he never seen me move that fast before because there are windows where you could see the stairs. And they think it was because of A Nightmare on Elm Street, where A Nightmare on Elm Street did scare me quite a bit when I was 14, but The Evil Dead is what made me run up those stairs. Okay, I'm sorry. I have a story for every single movie. Okay, so now
we saw it at the Florida Theater.
Oh, we did. We went to see Bruce Campbell give a talk, and then after
Bruce talk.
Yeah, and then after his Bruce talk, we did. You mean Bruce talk instead of a TED talk?
Yeah.
So we saw his Bruce talk, and then which was very fun. He's very funny, and then we watched An Evil Dead right after. Okay.
Yep, that happened.
Yeah. So next is, we're at 7. So my number 7 movie is Jaws. I didn't know if Jaws was really considered horror or if it was more drama or more science fiction-y because it's a giant shark. But I think I would consider it horror because we live in a beach town and sharks are scary.
Shark movies are almost kind of their own genre.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's enough of them for there actually to be a shark genre.
I love a shark movie. I love sharks. I think sharks are adorable. I love their eyes. I don't want to like hang out with them, at least not a great white, but I think they're really cute. What do you think?
About sharks being cute.
Oh, no. I mean, do you have anything to say about Jaws?
Jaws was a pretty good movie. It's a classic.
But it
didn't make my list, but
I do want to point something out, though. A lot of people, including Molly from Mammoth Club, mistakenly think that the shark they have hanging up at Amity Island at Universal is Bruce the shark. It is not Bruce the shark. Bruce is a lot larger than that. That is the first shark that they caught, that they hung up on Amity Island when they thought they were catching Jaws in the movie. Mm-hmm. If you saw the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But the shark hanging up at Amityville Island or the Amityville area in Universal Studios, Florida, is not Bruce the shark.
It's not even Jaws.
It's not the Jaws. And I'm very surprised at Molly.
It's the first shark.
Because she thinks it is. And it's possible somebody who works for Universal said it's supposed to be Bruce. But do I mean canonically? It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
Right.
Because he would not be hanging up there like that. Do I need to put my nerd hat on?
Whatever happened to the Jaws in the end of that movie? I got to brush up on my Jaws.
At the end of the first one,
the
they
big shark
threw the tanks into him and blew him up, I believe is what happened.
So he was blown to bits.
Yeah. Okay. What is your number 7 movie?
Carrie from 2013 with Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I think that's a solid choice.
I actually like it better than the original one.
Because you like Chloe Grace Moretz. She's pretty.
She's the ugly girl in that
movie. I think that's funny how she's supposed to be the ugly girl. She's one of the prettiest girls ever. Did you have an anecdote you wanted to share?
Not really.
Okay.
I understand where she's coming from.
I wish I had that skill.
That movie.
I wish I had that skill. I would have.
Not so much with the psychic powers. I mean, I understand.
I think she just had the telekinesis. I don't think she had the
telekinesis.
Psychic powers.
Mind bullets.
I would abuse that skill.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I would be making cars flip over and everything. Okay. Probably not that extreme, but I would be doing some stuff.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And I will be responsible for stopping aggressive drivers. Okay, so now we're at 6, and my number 6 movie is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, the original. I love that movie. Even though I think Freddy Krueger is kind of, I don't really think he's that scary. But then again, I think, what if I ran into him in real life? Then I'd be like, you're scary. So I guess it's all about perspective, really.
Yeah, if you fell asleep and you were being flipped around the room, slashed with razors on the end of his fingers, you would probably think he was scary.
Yeah, that would be scary. But in 1984, when I saw A Nightmare on Elm Street, he was scary. And the scariest part is when he's walking down the alleyway and the arms are really long.
He was one of the first guys that there was some comic relief in a horror movie.
But there wasn't really any in part 1 and just maybe a tad bit in part 2. But as it continued on, he got funnier.
Yeah.
Yeah. because Wes Craven didn't want him to be silly. He didn't get silly till other people started making movies about him. Then he became a silly guy. Uh-oh.
He's a silly goose.
A silly goose. What's your number 6 movie, Eric?
Blair Witch Project.
That's a good one.
That one invented or created a whole genre.
Mm-hmm. Found footage.
Responsible for a lot of terrible movies made after that.
Now
Some of them were decent.
I do like a found footage movie. I really do. I like As Above, So Below a lot. If you haven't seen that and you like scary movies, you need to check that out. It's not without its problems, but it's pretty good. Grave Encounters is really good. Grave Encounters 2, not so much. I'll watch it because it's still a scary movie. And there have been some terrible found footage movies too, because I believe these iPhone filmmakers said, well, we'll just do a found footage movie, and it's there. There's a lot more. It looks simple, and it is probably kind of simple, but there's a lot more to it than that, you know.
I did like the Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activity is real.
First one or two of them. They got a little ridiculous after they started making 6 or 7 of them.
I like Paranormal Whacktivity. Have you watched that one yet?
No, I haven't.
My best friend Katie, who I told y'all about a few videos ago, she passed away about 20 years ago. But she knew one of the guys that made, not one of the actors in the Blair Witch Project, but one of the guys that created it, that came up with the idea. Okay.
That movie was very unique. It was for its time.
No gore.
And I forgot what I was going to say.
You said it was very unique for its time.
Yeah.
And then you forgot. Yeah, for its time, it was very unique, because that was about, what, 1998-ish? 99-ish? Something like that?
Somewhere around there.
There was really, at that time, like you say this now, and people are like, now, there's lots of movies like that. But I don't think people realize at that time, there weren't a lot of movies like that. There weren't any movies like that I could think of, and I know horror. And I can't think of any movies that were like that. I thought it was very unique for the time it came out. It was, like Eric said, it jumped off a whole new, it started off a whole new subgenre of horror. And the beautiful thing about that movie is will you let that thing in here? I'm alone.
I don't know if that's going to make it better or worse.
I'm alone. Okay.
But there was when I first started hearing about that movie, there was a little brief period where I thought it was like a real thing.
Yeah, I think everybody.
Like a documentary.
I think even today, some people think it's a real thing. Well, that's how they marketed it. You know, I don't know if the Blair Witch Project website is still up, but even the way the website was designed.
There's been some pretty terrible sequels to that movie, though.
Yeah, but the Blair Witch, the most recent sequel, I didn't like it the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it, I liked it. But with the Blair Witch Project, and there's no gore. There's not really any jump scares, but it's a very effective, scary movie. It scared me. And one of the scariest parts to me is, if you start that, you're going to get thrown out. Come here, baby. One of the scariest parts to me is when Heather goes down the stairs in the guy's house, the cabin or whatever, Russ Parvin's house, and Mike is in the corner facing the wall. That's like the freakiest part to me. It's at the very end. That's so scary to me. And I don't know why, but it had an effect on me. It really scared. Just thinking about it freaks me out a little bit. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
What's next? 5?
Yeah.
Okay, number 5 for me is The Conjuring. I love that movie. And so I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but in the movie they do this thing called the clapping game. And in one scary part, Lily Taylor is in the basement at the top of the basement stairs, and she lights a match, and she's like, what's happening down there? And then you hear a voice say, want to play the clapping game? And then you see 2 hands next to her head, and they go like that. So I had this coworker when I worked at the hospital, and I would just tell people, go up behind her real quiet, clap your hands like that. And people would do it, and it would make her jump out of her skin. Oh, okay.
Who was the guy in that movie?
The guy from
I'm trying
Office
to think
Space.
which one that was.
The guy from Office
Oh, yeah.
Space.
Okay.
Yeah. Ron Livingston. Berger from Sex and the City. He was in a movie. He was in a movie called, I think it was called Campfire Tales. I'm having a really hard time finding it, but I love that movie. It's an anthology movie, and Glenn Quinn, who played he played Mark in Roseanne. He's passed away, but he was in it, and Ron Livingston is in it too. And they're little short bits because it's an anthology. But I thought that movie was really scary too, and that was a super low budget movie. Okay.
Office Space is really good.
Yeah, Office
That's
Space
not
is
horror.
great.
My favorite part of Office Space is when he's sitting on the couch and he's like, "How long do you think I could sit on this couch?" Until someone comes and physically removes it. And they have a lengthy discussion about him and his neighbor.
I like when he says, I don't want to pay bills anymore. I don't think I'm going to do it. Okay, Eric, what's your number 5 movie?
Halloween. John Carpenter, the original one. That's a classic. Can't really go wrong with that.
No.
It's a little silly, actually.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
But it's got this whole vibe to it.
It's great.
Remember when we were trick-or-treating in the neighborhood next to our apartment out there at the beach, and the lady had her piano out in the driveway, and she was playing the Halloween theme music?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like the main theme either. It was like the entire movie soundtrack she played.
And he was playing the themes, the versions from other movies, and then he was playing one, and I said, "Oh, that's from," because I'm such a dork. I remember because I was dressed as Samara. Remember? That was cool. We didn't have any kids trick-or-treating or anything. I just wanted to walk around on Halloween night in my costume.
Yeah, Marshall was like 13 or 14.
Yeah, he was over it. He was playing video games. What's your number 5? Oh, you already did that, right? Okay. So number 4 for me is The Omen with Damien. My favorite, that movie, I remember it was on TV, and I wasn't allowed to watch it, but my mom was watching it in my room, and I was awake, and she didn't know I was awake, so I was kind of sleeping like this, and watching it, and it scared me. But at the end, I didn't like it when he was trying to kill the baby with the big needle things, the big knives, but now I understand why he needed to kill that kid. But the part where the guy is decapitated, that's freaky, and where the priest is impaled with the lightning stick or whatever that's called. That's scary. But the best part of that movie is at his birthday party when the nanny is up in the window. It's like, Damien, it's all for you, Damien, and she jumps and. Do you remember all that?
Yeah, I might have to go back and brush up on that one.
Yeah.
I remember that part.
It's a good one. Okay, what's your number 4 movie?
Frankenstein from 1931, the original one with Boris Karloff. That's a classic.
That's a good one.
I had to throw in a classic Universal movie, Monsters movie, and that's the best one from that era.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out when I was a kid watching it like on science fiction theater on Saturday afternoon, and he threw the girl in the lake, and that was disturbing. Especially for a little kid and watching a black and white movie. That stuff wasn't supposed to happen in black and white movies.
Yeah. I think one of the scariest things about that is he thought he was playing. You know, and like it was just like his innocence. And And people mistake it. He is not the monster. The monster is Dr. Frankenstein. I mean, he's the monster. He's Frankenstein's monster. But Dr. Frankenstein is the villain. The monster isn't the villain. You see what I'm saying?
Boris Karloff was pretty intense too when he was freaking out and he broke loose and got away from him.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little disturbing too.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's not really the evil.
Right.
And in the book, he was actually very helpful. He was living under those people's porch and bringing them firewood and stuff.
And people like to point out, like, the people that are like, well, I'm really smart about everything and he's not Frankenstein. Here's the thing. He considered Dr. Frankenstein his father. Dr. Frankenstein considered his creation his son. So that would mean his last name would have been Frankenstein. So he was a Frankenstein of the wherever they're from, Frankensteins. You know?
Mm-hmm. Of the Chippewa Falls Frankensteins.
Yeah, so it's perfectly acceptable to refer to Frankenstein's monster as Frankenstein.
I did like the Robert De Niro one too. I thought that was pretty good.
Don't even bother screaming.
That one was a little more true to the original story.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what's next? 3? 3?
Probably, yeah.
My number 3 is The Exorcist. That's a good one.
It's a good one.
That's a good one. That movie is just insanity. It's just crazy. So I watched Exorcist, the new one with the 2 girls that were possessed, and that one's really good too. But to understand what happens with Reagan's mom in it, you really have to watch the original Exorcist. It's a really good movie. I like it a lot. Didn't you just watch it for the first time?
Pretty
last
recently,
time I
yeah.
watched it?
And it had the girl walking down the stairs backwards.
No, we didn't get to see that version.
Oh yeah,
we can't find that.
I've seen that before though.
I've seen that scene, but I can't find that version. But at Halloween Horror Nights, when they did the Exorcist house, they have that scene in it where a girl's walking down the stairs doing the spider crawl. Yeah. The Exorcist is just really good. It's really scary. Now, here's another thing. A long time ago, I made a video and I was talking about The Exorcist. This was years ago, probably right after I started my channel. And I was saying the makers of the film, like, even though The Exorcist is based on a possessed boy from the UK, some of the changes they made, like, who wrote it? William Peter Blatty?
Yes.
The reason it's a girl is because he wanted to play on that, because in a sense it was supposed to be like metaphor for when a young girl gets her period, and it's not that much of a stretch. You know, not that much of a stretch. So, but this person got really mad at me. He said, no, it's based on, I know what it's based on. But they took creative liberties. If you go and you research it, there are, people involved with the film that say it's just a very light look at a girl changing, a girl's body changing, and, having her period and stuff. Obviously, it's a movie about a demonic possession, but...
Because when girls go through that, I don't think their head spins all the way around.
No. And
just part of the way.
We do not vomit green stuff.
They don't levitate.
And we don't stab ourselves in the hoochie with a crucifix.
She did live at the end of that movie.
She did live, yeah.
Okay. I had never said I was a horror movie expert.
But in reality, not reality, but if you go by the television show Supernatural, by the way they work, her body would have never been able to survive after the demon was removed. Because like in Supernatural, the one girl that was possessed by a demon, would jump out of windows, and her body was completely broken. Once they exorcised her, she died because there was no way her human body could survive
Right.
after all the trauma it faced.
When your head spins completely around, you pretty much die.
So by today's standards, if Reagan, if that happened today, that movie was to happen today, there's no way they would be able to keep her alive after that, because her neck is messed up, is spun all the way around.
And people would just be online.
Yeah, well, that would be unreal. That's unrealistic. Really, you think? Okay, all right. What's your number 3, Eric?
American Psycho. I don't know if I actually consider this a horror movie, but Don said it was on the list, so I was allowed to include it.
It was on the list. It was on the list.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time, period, horror or not.
That is a great movie. I still don't really understand the ending. Like, was it all about just how selfish people were in the 80s and how no one knows who anybody really is? They just know their own little space. And
yeah, I think that's the gist of it.
But I like how...
I don't think everyone was like that in the 80s, but those Wall Street types of people were, and probably still are.
I do like how he runs after that prostitute naked, but he puts his running shoes on. Okay, are we ready to go on?
Yeah.
So my number 2 favorite horror movie is Psycho, the original. That's a great movie. I still have nightmares about that movie. And when you watch it, at least when I watch it, it's not really that scary. It's the afterburn. One night I had a nightmare that my record player was spinning. This is a long time ago. I was like maybe 15. My record player was spinning really, really, really fast. And I got up to look at it. And then when I look at it, it's starting to slow down and slow down. And when it stops, the record has an image on it. And it's mother's face after she turns around and she's all taxidermied. And one night, it was when me and Eric were living together in Virginia.
Did he taxidermy her? Was that implied in that
That
film?
was implied. He didn't do a good job at it.
She was rotting away.
Yeah. I
know he was I never put that together, I guess. But yeah.
I don't think I think he did enough to keep her from smelling up the joint. But when me and Eric were living together in Virginia, I was having a psycho dream one night. And I was kicking Eric, and he woke me up. And I woke up, but I was still kicking him. Like, I could not physically stop myself from kicking him. And I was having a psycho.
Yeah, she woke up and saw that it was just me, and she continued kicking. She couldn't stop. Makes sense.
But I was having a dream, a psycho dream. Remember the Big Boss Man Got Milk ad thing? Mm-hmm. One morning, Eric got up for work. He's always had to get up for work before it's even light out. And
it's not like on TV where the whole family's together and the sun's up and they're all going off to work and school and stuff.
Yep.
My life's never been like that.
So the alarm went off and Eric went over to turn it off, and I sat up and I heard myself. I remember this clearly, but I couldn't stop myself, and I grabbed his arm and I said, "Don't turn it off. We got to hear the Big Boss Man Got Milk ad." And in my head, I'm like, what the hell am I talking about? But I couldn't stop my mouth from saying those words. And Eric was sitting there laughing. But
and for those of you that don't know, the Big Boss Man is a wrestler.
He was a wrestler. It's like, we got to hear that Big Boss Man Got Milk ad. And you didn't really hear Got Milk ads, you saw them, but it was right after the Stone Cold Steve Austin Got Milk ad first came out. So I guess I was thinking Got Milk. I don't know. Did you do your number 2 movie yet?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
It's Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
That's a great movie. I love that movie.
It's kind of a comedy.
It's a comedy, but it still counts as a horror. It's a horror comedy. It's a horror comedy. It's a good one.
Mm-hmm. My favorite part is when he gets pulled over. The cop. Just says, "Thank you. That was very helpful."
I have a lot of favorite parts. I like the one part where, which one was Tucker and which one was Dale?
Tucker was the blonde-haired guy, whatever that guy's name is.
Okay. So Tucker was in the
Guy.
Tucker was in the hospital. He had to
think.
get his fingers sewn back on, and Dale came in there with beer. He gave him a beer, and he gave him a bendy straw, and he goes, "Look, I got you your favorite drinking utensil." And their dog, Jangers.
Mm-hmm.
That was funny. That's a good movie. If you haven't seen that movie and you're not ready for horror, like you're not ready to be scared, but you want to see something funny, but you're ready to jump off on horror, check that movie out, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. It's really funny. It's kind of gory, but it's great. Okay, Are you ready for number one? I almost gave this away earlier. My very, very favorite Halloween or scary movie of all time is Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween, not Rob Zombie's Halloween. Now, I don't hate Rob Zombie's Halloween. I just don't love it. But Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, it's also my favorite movie of all time. And I know you're thinking, oh, that's so elementary. No, Halloween is a brilliant movie. It is the perfect movie. You got the Scream Queen daughter.
You got Ben Tramer.
You got Ben Tramer.
Laser Man.
Tarantula Man. Michael Myers is and it's what kicked off the like it came out in 1978, but it's what truly kicked off the slasher movie of the 80s. Now, yes, there were slasher movies before Halloween, like Black Christmas and The Burnin'. Well, The Burnin' came out about the same time, but like Black Christmas was a slasher movie. But like Halloween was the one that really kicked off the slasher movie. So there's that. And plus it's brilliant because Michael doesn't speak. And the creepiest stuff isn't when he kills somebody. It's when he's just standing there looking, or when he's driving by looking, or when he's standing outside the car looking into the school at her. Or like the scariest part to me, or one of the scariest parts, is when Jamie Lee Curtis is in her room, when Laurie's in her room, and she looks out the window, and he's standing there at the clothesline looking up at her. You know, he's not doing anything. He's just standing there looking up at her. And it's Halloween day. He's got a mask on. Nobody's going to think anything of it because it's Halloween. It's scary.
Yeah, they're just like, look at that guy. He's dressed like Michael Myers.
And
It'd be one of those weird things. He doesn't actually exist in that. Wait, now I'm confused.
He doesn't exist as a fictional character in that universe.
He is Michael Myers.
He is.
But no one knows that.
Right. They think Michael Myers is locked up in a crazy house somewhere.
One thing that really... Now, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead. This
Okay.
would probably be better saved for later.
Okay. When we were working at the Haunt, we worked at the Haunt for a couple years, and we were in this email group, and I would get so annoyed because people were like, or this one guy was like, "Oh, time for me to whip out my Michael Myers mask." And like, our Haunt is in the woods. Michael Myers doesn't have anything to do with the woods. He's a city slasher. He's not a woods
City slicker.
Yeah. He's not and it bothered me. I'm like, that wouldn't even make any sense for Michael Myers to be in the woods. And I'm such a nerd that I'm just like...
They haven't made one single of all those movies where he was in the woods.
Yeah, he wouldn't...
All 12 of them.
He wouldn't be in the woods. And then one time we went to see Dead and Company in Atlanta. And we were walking back to our car. We were parked in the little wooded area, and we're walking down there, and the people in front of us are like, "Oh, we're in the woods." Michael Jackson. They may as well have said Michael Jackson. They were so wrong. They're like, Michael Myers is gonna jump out. First of all, Michael Myers does not jump, And secondly, they meant Jason. And I wanted to punch them all in the back of the head. And I know that's like my neurodivergence speaking, but it just drives me crazy that people don't know the difference. And if you don't know the difference between them, that's fine. Just don't act like you do. It's when people don't know the difference between Michael Myers and Jason. They're like, well, they look exactly the same. Someone said that to me one day. Like, no, they do not. They do not look exactly the same. First of all, take the mask off. Michael Myers is not deformed. He may be scarred up from years of getting beaten up, but he's not deformed. Jason is deformed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway, it's just something that bothers me. But for someone who works for a haunt to say, oh, it's time to whip out my Michael Myers mask, you should know better if you work for a haunt. Michael Myers doesn't have anything to do with the woods. It's the woods.
Right. And if you work at a haunt, you're probably a big fan of that stuff, and you shouldn't really have to whip it out. It should probably just be like laying on the table somewhere. You know?
Mm-hmm. Michael Myers. And I remember I said, if somebody shows up in a Michael Myers mask, I'm going to steal it from them and I'm going to hide it.
We did have a Jason.
We had a Jason.
Which made more sense.
And that made more sense. And he was a really good Jason. Brian got mad at one of the kitties. It's not funny. But yeah, I've gone on about that long enough.
The part that really bugs me, though, is when he's walking around with the mask on and they're showing, like, the two... He wouldn't be seeing it that way with, like, the two eye holes unless he's, like, holding the mask way out in front
right.
of him.
Yeah, that is a thing. That was, like, at the beginning of the movie when he puts the clown mask on. It's like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not how... Like, because we're supposed to be seeing it from his point of view. That's not how we would see it. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's not how he would see it, John Carpenter. But, and there's part of Halloween where you can actually see John Carpenter's cigarette smoke from off screen. He's smoking and the smoke makes its way onto the screen. Do you remember that part I pointed out to you? And there's one part, and you can't see it in every version of the film because there's remastering and stuff, but in the unmastered, is it unmastered? Is that the word I'm looking for? Unremastered or something like that? And like
it's mastered, it's just not remastered, so it's not unmastered, it's just...
Let's just say in the dirty cut of the film, you can actually see crew. You can see someone from the crew pointing where when Jamie Lee Curtis runs out of the house and is running away from Michael Myers, you could see this person pointing to where she's supposed to go. It's hard to see if you're not looking for it, but it's there. Trust me, but you got to get a dirty cut of the film to see it. Like we saw on the VHS, we had the VHS of it. They may have turned him into a tree or something by now, but in the versions we see, you know, on streaming. But let's see, is there anything else interesting to share about that movie?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I don't think so. But the Rob Zombie version, this is going on way too long. Let's just get on to you. What's your number one movie?
Yeah, the Rob Zombie version. My number one movie is Interview with the Vampire.
That's a good one too.
I wasn't quite sure if that was considered horror either, but Dawn allowed it on my list.
So. That was our third date. That was our third date, was to go see Interview with the Vampire in the theater. That is a great movie. It's scary. It's got scary moments.
Mm-hmm.
But it was on the list, so it's allowed.
I still quote that movie from time to time.
Yeah. It's a good one.
You lack the courage of your convictions.
Yep. That is a useful saying, though.
This place is cursed and your master is the devil. I use that one at work a lot.
Yeah. I like that movie a lot. I like Claudia. I think it's so sad, the part with Claudia, because she's a little girl when she's turned and she's never going to grow up, you know? But it doesn't matter because she ends up getting killed anyway. But she was such a pretty little girl, though, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Was that all Kirsten Dunst hair, or was that a wig, you think?
I don't know.
That was a lot of hair.
That was probably a wig.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So anyway, this is a really long video, so I guess we're going to wrap it up now. It takes a long time for me to talk about horror movies. So I've got a video coming out soon where I just talk about Halloween. So what did you do?
I bent it.
That was my ear pick. That's okay. I have about 1,000 other ones. But anyway, I have another video coming out soon where I'm going to talk about Halloween. Also, me and Eric have an idea for a horror short. Let us know if you want to see it because I want to make it. I think it'll be good. You know, for, two people that don't make movies, I think it'll be good. So let me know if you want to see it. We're going to make it for ourselves, but let me know if y'all want to see it. And we'll talk to everyone later. Bye.